My question is why you're so concerned with the fact that people are not true to themselves.
Right. I'm obsessed with that question. And I'm obsessed, and it comes out in various ways. One is I'm very worried that people are traditional
Yeah.
when they in fact don't believe any of the traditions themselves. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
And I'm also upset that they try to please people, and in the order in which it upsets me is pleasing their parents, which is what Dristi does,
Yeah.
and family members, and you do that, and your brother doesn't. But it ends up like Segun is not able to stand up for his own thinking as much as he should. He does other people's work without questioning, and he's dutiful. And Patty, when we first lived together, wrote a paper on dutifulness when she was at the Graduate School of Education. And Simone de Beauvoir wrote a whole essay on this. And it's true even more of women than men, which is even scarier, that they're dutiful to tradition, to their parents. They go to church more often, they pray more often, they wear these funny costumes, whereas the men don't have to wear them.
Yeah.
But it shows up in the secular sphere all the time. People, instead of being themselves, try to please other people. And in fact, they never please the other people. It always fails. And if you look at professors who are successful, there are very few successful professors who are just dutiful in carrying out their advisor's research program. Why? They never seem to get tenure. They don't have any passion for their work, so they don't do much.
Yeah.
And so it's the ones who are rebellious and more independent that become successful. And it's not clear to me why that's true. And I see it very much culturally. I see the Germans not understanding that there's present support of authoritarianism is just part of the German culture that that led to Nazism. And that they feel they have to conform, that they can't be rebellious, they can't be disrespectful of authority. And we've had three people here from Germany, all exhibiting that except for Elke.
Yeah.
But
Daniel is from Germany?
No,
No.
he's Swedish.
Swedish.
No, Sasha Bernhold really was not able to, he did his research on the model of hierarchical complexity, but he couldn't go beyond science education. He couldn't ask himself bigger questions. And that the guy who was here for a couple of days, Victor, he had that problem. And
what do you think was his problem? Why did he leave, you think?
I think I was too much rebellious, and he didn't see himself as, even though I took him around and showed him all the faults with American society, he just thought that the safety of big organizations in Germany was more important. This tenant I have felt exactly the same way. He's from Munich. His wife is more artistically minded and is less into pleasing others. But there's this dutifulness, and you see it no matter how much you communicate to people, that it doesn't work in the long run. They have to think everything out for themselves, that they can't accept authority. People were unable. Let me give you the most outstanding example was Larry Kohlberg was suicidal for years, had attempted suicide, and I was the only one who said, "Look, Larry, I got to take you to the hospital. You're crazy. You're acting out. You're drinking. You're taking drugs. Your relationship with Ann Higgins is working." No one afterwards ever spoke of all his problems, and not in writing and in no way. His biographer died before the biography came out and was fooling around with the biography as opposed to just publishing what he had. I mean, everybody is dutiful. Here they were dutiful with Larry, and it killed him. There are real consequences for not accepting realism. It isn't as if it's a free ride. People ask me all the time how I deal with suicide, because I've had at least 4 or 5 people I've had to deal with who are suicidal. One thing I tell them that people can't believe I said, listen, if you kill yourself, I'm not going to be terribly upset, because it's you that's dying, not me.
Yeah.
And, the fact is that you somehow think that you're going to be able to escape the pain, but you're not going to escape any pain. You'll be dead. You won't have any experience whatsoever. People get all upset when people are dying. I said, listen, you're being upset, but you don't admit that it's your loss. You think they're lost, they're dying, and they're upset about it. I don't find that to be the case. I find that when people are dying, they're not as terribly upset and trying to hold on as other people are trying to hold on for themselves. And so I think that's also being dutiful and not living for themselves. I made a joke about why Patty and I got married. I said, well, I was waiting for my mother to die. And they don't understand that what that was about. And I said, it was clear that I didn't get married for her or not get married for her. But when she died, it was clear that I needed a succession plan, and we got married, and it turned out that neither her nor my father ever had a clear succession plan, and we lost about $1 million that way. And I just said, I don't want to go through this with my own kids. I'm going to have a succession plan. And I'm going to make sure it's funded and that the names are right. I haven't followed up enough, but...
That's life.
Yeah, anyway. So I'm very disturbed about this issue that people don't live their lives on their own terms. And that's why, to me, coming out and being gay and standing up for women's rights and minority rights. It's just, you're not supposed to. I don't think it's a good behavior to stand in judgment of the other people, and I think people should be able to live their lives on their own terms. I do think we should supervise people who act out and do very destructive things when it's manifestly clear, like robbery, beating other people, and that sort of stuff. But those are just, I don't think there's any question that those are bad behaviors. When you ask prisoners, do they think that killing people is bad? They all think so. Even the murderers think it's bad. There isn't anybody who doesn't think it's bad. Maybe a few sadists or something. I mean, even Jeffrey Dahmer, and they say, oh, he's a psychopath. He's just saying that. I don't think so. I think people really do things that they regret. They still do them. But it isn't as if they have no regret. The only people I've ever met that don't have regret are autism spectrum disordered people. They really don't show any respect for others. They treat people as if they're ropes or rocks. So, in that sense, I don't think they have regrets. But most people have a sense of what's fair. Babies have a sense of what's fair. I mean, animals, lots of animals will comfort other animals. If an animal loses its mother and they're under the care of human beings, so they're protected and they don't have to hunt, lions will take care of deer. Animals will adopt each other and become close friends. I mean, I think attachment is very powerful, even cross species and cross individuals, and you have to put people in pretty rough situations for them to behave otherwise. And Sharon Stein says, what about the adoptees? They wait 6 months, a year to be adopted, and they live in terrible situations. And guess what? They have attachment disorders their whole lives. But I think there are ways to deal with attachment disorders that Bob Ross mentions, getting people to engage in empathetic behavior. So what's your second question, off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, what is one thing that you did that you regret the most?
I think things that bother me are really quite trivial. Like, I don't remember all the women in my life. There was this woman who lived down the street from Sandra Brennan. I don't remember her name. And we were friends for a year and a half. And I don't remember her name. There was a woman when I was going to graduate school that I befriended. She wanted to marry me. I don't remember her name. That bothers me, that I don't remember important people in my life's names. I used to feel bad that I trashed my year-and-a-half-long girlfriend, Joanne Leonard, after she came back from LA after having an abortion. I was very upset because she wouldn't let me drive her back, pick her up at the train or anything. And I got very angry with her. And then my friend Mickey Katz explained to me that I was probably right, that Joanne really had relational difficulties, and I was upset about that. And that's why I acted out. But I think I wouldn't have acted out to the extent that I did and drove around and yelled at her. I think I would be more civil. But most of the aggression I've done in my life, I mean, I got Robert Epstein, I ruined him, and other people have said, well, you just did what, somebody was going to do. You just did it more civilly and more quickly. And same thing with Jack Demick, who was abusing students. I'm not afraid of standing up, and I've never regretted standing up. But I think that there's civil ways to do it and non-civil ways, and I think the civil ways are always better. But I don't have big regrets. I would have liked to have more kids, but I also respected that it was Patty that had to have them, not me. But I would have liked to have a family of about 4. I like having kids. I like my kids a lot, and if you notice, I think the feeling's quite mutual. They like me, and I like them. We help each other. We have a good family, and I don't have to ask them to look after me. They look after me. I don't have to instruct them on being good kids. They're good kids. They're good adults. And I can be honest with them and straightforward, and what else could you want? So I have very few regrets. I think I've made some mistakes. Like, I don't think I didn't know how disabled I was until I was in my 50s. Can you imagine? I didn't know I had AD. I didn't know I had a dyslexia until I was 50. And it was Marianne Wolfe who diagnosed me. And that was extremely, extremely helpful. Because once I knew that, I knew why I needed all this help all the time. And it made clear that I wasn't just dumb, I had deficits. And then Marie Miller said I had ADHD, and she was right. I regret having taken Ritalin because it just gave me tics, didn't do any good. And but I think psychiatrists don't understand that drugs have serious side effects, and you have to be really cautious about giving them. It should be a last attempt, not a first. You should use behavioral means long before you're willing to give drugs to people. I mean, you don't remember her who worked here, but I hired a crazy woman for about a year. But she went crazy and started attacking Patty, and I said, you can't work here any longer. I kicked Brockman out because he attacked Lucas, and he was crazy. So I stand up, but I'm not as sensitive as I should be about other people around me getting abused, and I think I regret that. But I think that my own deficits, the fact that I was, treated miserably by schools, but when I look back at it, I was also extremely helped by famous professors, and people had much more belief in me than I did. It's only really with Eva, who said if I could do stage 14, I had to be at a 15, and that's become 15 and 16 now. And can you imagine? I didn't know how smart I was until students pointed it out. Am I regretful that I didn't know I was this smart? I think I would have done better having not known it, and knowing that I just needed a lot of help.